Today we're discussing how to choose endings whenever Coach Trammell is taking the endings off of the word and you have to fill in the blank with the proper Latin ending. These are the same ones that we've seen on our old quizzes. So I'm going to go over how to get the answers for these endings. The first thing I have to do is I have to decide, am I dealing with a noun? Am I dealing with a noun? Or am I dealing with a verb? Okay, so let's look at the first one. We have senator. That looks like a noun to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my nouns here. Whenever I'm dealing with a noun, the first thing that I have to do is I have to determine how is it being used grammatically. Well, let's look at the word senator. If the senators are going to return to the city, senators is being used as the nominative or as the subject of the sentence. So if it is a subject, then that leads me to the nominative case. So first I look for the grammar, and it was being used as a subject. That leads me to the Latin case, which is nominative. Now if I've established that the case is nominative, I have eliminated all of the other endings except for the nominative endings. So we know its senator is being used as the subject, which makes it nominative. So it can't have any of these other endings with it. Can't have them because it's not. None of those are nominative endings. By establishing that it is the subject, I have limited the answers to 6 possibilities. Now, if I ask myself what the number is, if I ask myself what the declension is, then I'm going to get the rest of those answers. Take those highlights off real quick. So if I'm looking for the number, singular or plural, I'm asking myself, is it singular or plural? Senators, that is plural. By establishing that it is plural, I can eliminate all of the singular endings that are nominative, which leaves me with 3 possibilities: AE, I, or ES. That brings me to my next one. I have to determine what declension it's in. So how do I determine what declension the word is in? Well, let's look. If I look up in the back of the book and I have via, revus, and senator, each one of them has a genitive singular listed with it. These genitive singulars will tell me what declension a word is. If the genitive singular is AE, I have a first declension word. If the genitive singular is I, then I have a second declension word. And if the genitive singular is IS, I have a third declension word. Now that matters because that's going to help me decide whether I choose the first declension nominative plural AE, the second declension nominative plural I, or the third declension nominative plural ES. Well, in this case, I have senator, senatoris. Right here. IS ending. That means it's third declension. So my third declension ending is ES. Right? It's right here. ES. I can eliminate the second declension. I can eliminate the first declension. So my answer for that first one is ES. And that's really all I have to determine what that is. I got to get rid of some of these marks here. Give me a second. So we can start over. All right. Now, next one that we have. So we determined that this was ES. The next one I have to determine what is the grammatical function. Well, odd takes the accusative as its object of a preposition. So once again, if I look at my chart, I've established that it is accusative, object of a preposition, which means it has to be one of the endings that belongs to the accusative. So I'm going to use one of those 6 endings, am, as, os, em, or es. I have to determine what declension, or singular plural, first. It doesn't matter in this case. This could be singular or plural. So I'm going to have 2 possible answers. Whichever one sounds best is the one I'm going to use. The next thing I have to do is determine what declension it is. Right? So I'm looking for the declension at this point. And when I look this up in the back of the book, I find urbs, urbis, feminine, city. This is tells me that it is a 3rd declension word. That it is a 3rd declension word, which means I'm going to have a 3rd declension ending. So I've established it's accusative, right? I've established that it is accusative, right? I've established that it is part of the 3rd declension, and that it doesn't matter whether or not it's singular or plural. Because of that, I can use either the em or the es. Let's see which one we like best. Is it the senators return to the city, or the senators return to the cities? I'm going to go with the singular. With each of these, I'm basically doing the same thing. I'm trying to determine how it's being used as a noun or a verb. The next one, labora, is going to be used as a verb. Okay, let's go and look at the verbs. All right, I've established that it's a verb, so now I need to know what person it is. Is it first person? Is it second person? Or is it third person? Let's go back. It looks like to me, if I read this whole sentence, we are tired because we know is first person and plural. So I've established that it's first person. We is plural. That means that moose is going to be my ending. It's also important that I determine what conjugation it belongs to. Okay, if it's a first conjugation or a second conjugation, I'm just going to take the ending, the a or the e, and then add the ending that I need for the person. So it would, a s, a t, a moose, a tis, a int, or aunt for the first conjugation. For the second conjugation, I would have es, et, e moose, etis, and int. Now, the third and fourth are a little bit different. Remember, that's our 4 i's and a u. So I'm going to have is, it, imus, itis, and then the third person plural will have that u in it. So don't forget about that. Let's go back and see what we can find out about that verb that we're dealing with. Laboro, laborare is a first conjugation. That's why we have the a. We said it was first person and plural, so we use the first person and plural ending, moose, for that one. Looking at the next one, we decide that that's a verb. And remember, for a verb, we have to ask ourselves the person, the number, and we have to ask ourselves the conjugation. So we have boys. Why do you all not work? So the person is second person, you all. It is plural because it's you all. What conjugation is laborare? We already established that it's first. That's why it gets that a. So what is the ending for the second person in plural? Second person, right here, in plural, is tis. So what do I use for this? I'm going to put tis. So that's how I'm dealing with those so far. We're asking the same question every time, though. The same question. Is it a noun or is it a verb? Based on that, we go through a process of elimination. Okay, kubiku, whatever, I don't have the ending. Is it a noun or a verb? It is a noun. Okay, so what do I do with a noun? I have to ask myself, what grammar is it being used as? It looks like it's an object of a preposition. So I've eliminated it to accusative or to ablative based on that. Now, I look at the letter E, the preposition, and I ask myself, does E take the ablative or the accusative? Well, if I've done a good job memorizing my prepositions and what they take, I know that E takes the ablative case. With that alone, I've eliminated all but 6 endings. The ablative endings are A with a long mark, IS, OIS for the second declension, and then E and ibis for the third declension. So the next thing I have to determine is the number. Is it singular or plural? Okay, so Cornelius leaves from the bedroom or from the bedrooms? Well, it's kind of hard to distinguish. I'm going to go with singular. I'm going to say it's one bedroom. So I can eliminate all of these plurals right away. That leaves me with 3 possibilities. And all I have to do last is determine what declension it is. If I look up the word cubiculum, it has the letter I as its genitive singular. That makes it second declension, and that's why I picked the letter O. Sorry, the letter O as the ending. When I get to xe, I establish it's a noun or a verb, and in this case it is a verb. So with a verb, I have to determine the person, I have to determine the number, and I have to determine the conjugation. Okay, Cornelius is the subject. Cornelius is third person. Cornelius is also singular. Conjugation of xe, if I look it up, it's ire, which makes it fourth conjugation. So that's why that I is there. So the conjugation is fourth. Third person and singular. Let's put my O-S-T, moose, tease, and unt. If I've said that it's third person, I can eliminate the first and the second. So that leaves me with 2 possibilities. When I establish that it's singular, I can get rid of the NT, and that only leaves me with a T. Looking at number 5, the first thing that I ask myself, is it a noun or is it a verb? It's a noun, coach. Agris is a noun. Okay, the next thing I ask about a noun is how is it being used grammatically? Well, in this case, it's the object of a preposition, and we know that the case of an object of a preposition is either accusative or ablative. I look at the preposition, it is per. If I've done a good job with my prepositions, I know that per takes the accusative ending. Okay, by eliminating the ablative, I've narrowed it down to am, as, os, or em, and es. Now I determine whether it's singular or plural. The girls walk through the field or through the fields. Let's say through the field. We'll make it singular. So I'm eliminating all of the plurals. And the last thing I have to determine is what declension does it belong to? First, second, or third? When I look up the word auger, it has the letter I as its genitive. So it belongs to the second declension because it's the letter I. We'll go look at that real quick. How do I determine what declension it belongs to? I look at these genitive singulars. If it's I, it belongs to the second declension. So I'm going to use the second declension ending. Second declension ending is right here. I've eliminated the plural. The only thing I have left is um. The next one I look at, is it a noun or is it a verb? Well, ambulo is a verb. So with a verb, I'm going to look at person, I'm going to look at number, and the conjugation. So the person, girls is the subject, they are third person. Girls is plural. Conjugation is first. So if I've said third person and plural, that means I can eliminate the first person, I can eliminate the second person. Those are gone. So I'm either going to put T or NT based on singular or plural. We said it was plural. T is gone. That leaves me with just the NT. Looking at number 6 now. First thing I do is I ask myself, is it a noun? Is it a verb? We established that arbor is a noun. What do I do with nouns? First thing I do is ask myself, what's the grammar being used? Okay, it looks like that it's part of a prepositional phrase. So the grammar, the case, is going to be, as a prepositional phrase, either ablative or accusative. If I've done a good job with my prepositions, once again, I know that Sue takes the ablative. I can eliminate the accusative. That leaves me with the endings a and ease, o and ease, e and ibis. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to establish the number. Is it singular or plural? Well, I tell you right here that it's plural. So I can get rid of these singular endings. The last thing that I'm going to determine is the declension. When I look up the word arbor, it has an is as its genitive. Remember that the is part of the third declension. So I use the third declension ending, which is ibis. Erase this real quick. Third declension ending, ibis. Looking at the next one, ask myself, is it a noun or is it a verb? Sede is a verb, so I ask case, number, and conjugation. Once again, same thing. Okay, the case, or not case, I'm sorry, person. Person, number, and conjugation. Boys is the subject, so it is third person. Boys is plural. Conjugation is second conjugation. I know that because the infinitive is long, E-R-E. So if I have O and moose, I have S and T-I-S, I have T and N-T. If I said it's third person, I can eliminate the first and second persons. I say it's plural, I can eliminate the singular. That leaves me with just the NT. All of these are a process of elimination. If I ask myself the right questions, then I'm going to come up with the right answers if I'm aware of what the endings are for all of my cases and for my verbs. What questions then do I ask? Well, let's write them up here. If I establish that it is a noun, I ask myself, what grammar is it? That grammar will lead me to the case. I ask myself, what is the number, singular or plural? That eliminates another 3 possibilities. Finally, I ask myself, what declension does that noun belong to? And I can eliminate 2 of the 3, which leaves me with 1. And that's how I establish what ending to put on it. If I say it's a verb, I have to ask myself, what is the person, first, second, or third? What is the number, singular or plural? And what conjugation does it belong to? And if I can determine all of those, then I can eliminate by person. That gives me 2 choices. If I know what person it is, that leaves me 2 choices. Is it singular or plural? That knocks it down to 1. Conjugation lets me know what vowel to use at the end of that. So I want you guys right now to hit pause, and I want you to answer 1 through 5. Hit pause, take a few minutes to answer those using this right here, as a guide. And let's see if you do a little bit better than what you have been doing with these endings. Hit pause now. Hopefully you did a good job here. We're going to put the endings, the correct answers up here, and we'll see how you guys do. Okay. Library is nominative. It is plural. It's part of the second declension, so it gets the letter I. Senator is of, so it's genitive. It is plural because of senators. It is part of the third declension, so it gets UN. Cum takes the ablative. Service there is a noun. Because cum takes the ablative, service is part of the second declension. It is going to be plural, so I'm going to use IS. If you put O there, that's okay. It's just probably better with is. Gate is going to be accusative. That's who's being sought. Accusative is a direct object. Because it's a direct object, accusative singular. Gate is part of the first declension. I use an. If they're afraid of something, era is a noun. It is a direct object. Because it is a direct object, it is accusative. It is singular, part of the first declension. Am. Of makes it genitive. Of the overseer, it's singular. It's part of the second declension, so I get the letter I. Cornelia leads Flavia. Flavia is a noun. It's being used as a direct object. It is singular, part of the first declension. I use an. Odd takes the accusative. Auger is being used as an object of preposition. Because odd takes the accusative, it's going to be accusative. Is it singular or plural? I'm going to say that they're going to walk through one field. You could use two fields. So if you put OS, it's fine. I'm just choosing UN because I've determined that it's part of the second declension. Finally, I have a great number of slaves. Because it's of slaves, I've determined that it is being used as a genitive. I've determined that it's being used as a plural. And I've determined that it's part of the second declension. The second declension plural ending for the genitive is orum. Finally, I have the word in, not being used as into, which would make it accusative. It's being used as just in, which makes it ablative. In taking the ablative, singular or plural, I'm going to go with singular, part of the first declension, a with a long mark. Once again, if I ask myself, is it a noun? Is it a verb? And then I ask myself the grammar, the case, the number, the declension for a noun. I ask myself the person, the number, and the conjugation of the verb. I should do a lot better whenever I'm dealing with picking out the right endings. And don't forget, that's a lot of points tomorrow for your test.